Hey guys, Brandon Sanders here from campusdecan.com. We're going to go over the spring game that happened for the North Carolina Tar Heels this past Saturday. I was there in attendance and I was able to go a little bit earlier. So I was able to kind of check things out, get some footage, and then I was able to have an interview with Don Callahan from Inside Carolina, which you'll be hearing on the Future Freshman podcast. So I'm going to have that coming up along with Corey from Pack Pride. So you'll have both North Carolina and NC State as far as perspective of a recruiting standpoint, and from the 24/7 Sports guys. So you'll have that coming up soon. So keep a lookout for the podcast coming up this weekend. But I was there and I was able to kind of observe things and things like that, and not just from the TV perspective. So let's start off with a few things that I think is going to be pretty important. So of course the big question is the QB battle, right? So we have, of course, Drake May, Jacoby Criswell, and then we do have Connor Harrell, who's coming in as a freshman. I can go ahead and tell you that Harrell didn't get a lot of warm-up and stuff like that. These guys, the coaches are going to say that they used a coin flip the day before on there as well, but you can still see the differences. When you look at them when they line up to do warm-ups or when they do their exercise and stuff like that, they usually do it by different strings and stuff like that. So whether you have first, second, third string. So just by being observant and kind of seeing, Drake May, of course, is always hanging out with the ones, hanging out with, the guys like Josh Downs and the O-lineman like Zach Rice, who was highly recruited and stuff like that. He was ahead as Criswell was behind him, and then Connor Harrell's behind him. So actually during warmups, Drake May got the majority of them, followed by Criswell. And then, of course, Harrell got, limited on there as well. So in the actual game itself, you saw Drake May start off. He won the coin flip. Then you saw Connor Harrell, the freshman, and then you saw Jacoby Criswell. I'll go ahead and say that this one's going to be a pretty close race, a lot closer than what we think. However, I do think because of Drake May, seeing that in warm-ups and seeing him taking the progressions and stuff like that ahead of time, and also on the sideline working over with the running backs as well. So doing the handoffs and the passes that Coach Longo likes to do. I'm thinking because of pedigree, accuracy as well, Drake May does right now have the advantage. However, Jacoby Criswell did a really, really great job moving the sticks. He was able to kind of get the first downs and progress it as well. And of course, got one ran in by DJ Jones, who was backing up. We'll talk about the running backs here in just a minute. So for now, I think it's still edge Drake May. However, this is a lot closer than we thought. Both of these guys have very similar styles, so the offense doesn't change at all. So Coach Longo does not have to have two separate game plans. He can literally just throw May or Criswell in there, and that's nice from those team standpoint. But it also means there's not as much separation as we thought either as well. So kind of put that in the pinpoint. But for now, I'm going to edge towards Drake May, still doing it only because I saw him get the most reps. And he exercised with the ones, and he did more warm-ups than the other two quarterbacks. So we're going to go along with that as well. Something else that I think is really important is that the running back room, there is a clear running back one. And even Coach Brown said it after the spring game, it is British Brooks. And that's the guy that we do need to be targeting both in redraft, or if you're looking for your supplemental stuff, if you're doing freshman drafts with supplemental, British Brooks, if he's on your waiver wires, he would be one that I would highly recommend taking, especially if you're in a win now mode in Dynasty. But if you're looking for redraft, he's great value. And I think he's going to take on most of the stuff as well. There's still a battle between DJ Jones, Elijah Green, and then I would say George Pettaway is still in the mix. Pettaway's shown really great flashes in practice. It just didn't transcend into the game, but we did see some quick movement by Pettaway, so he's definitely going to be I got to look out for. However, for now, I would probably temper expectations. However, he would be the freshman 2 target, I'd say currently right now. And we'll go into what, wide receivers here in just a second. And there's a reason why I would say out of all the freshmen that are coming into North Carolina, George Pettaway would kind of be head and shoulders above kind of the rest right now, only because he could get playing time, play his way into the second running back. But, for this video purposes, British Brooks is the name that we need to look at. You'll be seeing me move him up a little bit more in my rankings. I did it conservatively just because I wanted to see for myself. But after the interview with Don and then watching the spring game, British Brooks by far, because they let him play with the ones and then some with the twos, but he only did a few snaps, and they sat him to rest the rest of the game and let DJ Jones, Elijah Green, and George Pettaway kind of fight it out basically. So that tells me a lot that they're trying to keep British fresh and they're ready for him to take on the reins here this year. So British Brooks is the name we need to look at for running back. Okay, wide receivers, a little bit of a stock down. So Andre Green Jr. apparently just showed up on campus literally the day before. And I think Coach Brown in the post interview said that he was trying to get Andre to play, but NCAA and stuff like that's pretty much told him no. So Andre Greene is behind a little bit. I think he had some loose ends he had to tie up at home from what I was hearing. So he didn't get to play in this one. So he's just now on campus. It's now learning the playbook. So he's there. And then, of course, Amarian Hampton, the other running back that we just talked about, running backs, he's not there until June. So, two freshmen are kind of behind the curve. And from what I've seen in observation, Antoine Greene, the super senior who's there for the 5th year because of COVID, he is, going to be probably the wide receiver 2 lining up on the other side. I'll go ahead and say this. A lot of people are worried about Josh Downs, and I get it that he didn't play a lot against Grimes, who's our top cornerback. But even when he played in the 1 and 2s, we don't have to worry about production when it comes to Josh Downs. Regardless of his straight man or Jacoby Criswell, he caught 2 amazing touchdowns from each quarterback, and they targeted him deep, and they targeted him very often. So if you're, in a big 1-point PPR and stuff like that, even if you're worried about a touchdown regression, you don't have to worry about production when it comes to Josh Downs. So I still think he's the dominant wide receiver 1. In the interview during the spring game, he did say that he is working not just in the slot, but on the outside and sweep stuff. So we're starting to see a little bit more movement with Josh Downs, a little bit more trick plays that Coach Longo is trying to do. So I think that's important. But I do say Antoine Greene is the wide receiver 2 to kind of look at for this year. But there's a rising popularity with sophomore J.J. Jones out of Myrtle Beach. He's doing really, really great in his 2nd year here as a sophomore. So be on the lookout for him. Unless Andre Greene can kind of pick up the playbook quicker, he does have a chance to initially start. But for now, we're looking at Josh Downs, Antoine Greene, J.J. Jones is 1, 2, 3 currently that we're looking at. So whether you're doing best balls now, or you're in Dynasty and you're thinking about picking up J.J. Jones on waivers, if you're doing a supplemental and something like that, that might be the way to go. I will stay a little bit stocked down on Andre Greene Jr. when it comes to the freshmen. So the Future Freshman podcast, I had him like late 1st, 2nd. I would probably, third round now right now, just because I think we might not see him really break out until maybe either the middle of the season or truly into next season. So not that day 1 thing that we're trying to, hope for as well. So kind of keep that in mind. Let's see. I will say that tight end Ryan Nesbitt is being used on the outside. I did hear reports in the spring that he was being used with the wide receivers. I thought that was really interesting. And then he's got a lot. So he's a lot thinner at a tight end, and they use Morales, the other tight end, the senior, as more of a traditional tight end, but he's more of a blocker, but he has caught in the past. But I expect to get Nesbitt a lot of work, especially with Andre Greene Jr. playing catch up during the season here and trying to kind of get ready here as we start the season and things like that. If they can continue to put Nesbitt in that package where they move him on the outside or able to play the tight end spot, and they keep moving him and Downs a lot, I like that. That's really awesome. So regardless if it's May or Criswell, now we have some weapons to move. It sounds like it'll be a much more of a different, more high octane type offense. They definitely want to try to gun it and go basically as well. I will say the defense is much improved. So if you do play defense, whether it's in Dynasty or if you played in a redraft, Carolina's a long shot from taking them early. But if you're looking for a plug and play for a week and they play like a smaller team, defense is much improved. They got to Connor Harrell several times during the game and once to May and almost caught Criswell, but Criswell was able to escape to go along with it. So I will say that the defense is much improved, especially on the front. Offensive line, they still got some work to go with. However, with Zach Rice and a few of the other guys, the transfers, they had a center come in from Miami and a few other ones. So the transfer portal is helping them become, a lot more stable, a lot faster. But I would say with the O-line, they do need someone like a Drake May or Criswell to get the ball out quick. And that's something that Coach Mac Brown has said in the actual press conference as well, is that they're looking to get them, out of the pocket, get it out. They'll get the ball as fast as possible as the O-line continues to mature and get better, where they have more time to sit in the pocket and find the deep pass and things like that. So you're going to see a lot of bubble screens. British Brooks got a lot out of the backfield. So did George Pettaway. I believe Elijah Green had probably the best, I'd say, performance in the spring. He was able to bust that breakout for like a good 30-yard run. So him and DJ Jones kind of look the same, if I'm being honest with you, but stock up on that as well. And then also last one, penalties were really good. So Carolina had a lot less penalties in this spring game. Penalties cost us a lot. And when it came to the actual football games last year, so it cost them some plays and it cost some production, both from Sam Howell and, the receivers. So, less penalties is good. That means more fantasy points. That means stuff isn't coming back, and that's fantastic. So that's kind of the takeaway that I had. Visiting there in Chapel Hill. It was a beautiful day, great day for football. A little chilly, but it was all right. A little windy. You'll see in the interview coming up on the Future Freshman podcast that it was a little windy. So we had Don's daughter hold the camera for us and things like that. So it's a little shaky. I apologize, but you'll see it in there as well. But key takeaways: May has the advantage. British Brooks is the name that we need to focus on. Wide receiver 2 right now is Antoine Greene. Be careful with Andre Greene Jr. Temper expectations a little bit. Let him learn the playbook, but he should come on strong a little bit more. And then I'll say tight end Ryan Nesbitt is very interesting. I might be moving him up and taking Morales out of my rankings and actually moving Nesbitt up, especially if he's going to continue to get this type of advantage or this type of opportunity. So definitely interested in that. That's what I want to bring to the table for the fantasy purposes, but also defense much improved and the O-line's getting better every day. So keep it locked. Once again, I'm Brandon Sanders. You can find me at CFF University. Please join the campus, or if you can, go to campusdecan.com. Check out the tiers. There's tons of articles and stuff like that. So I advise you to kind of check those out. Of course, listen to the Future Freshman podcast. You'll find me every Friday morning, and we'll see you next time. Peace.